When Can Yaman returned from Dubai, nothing about him looked the same. Fans who had followed every step of his journey instantly noticed a shift, a heaviness in his eyes, a quietness in his posture, a kind of emotional weight he wasn't even trying to hide anymore. His time in Dubai had been expected to bring clarity, rest, and renewal, but instead, something happened there that left him visibly shaken. For days, the media speculated about the strange silence he maintained after landing back in Europe. No airport smiles, no energetic greetings, no casual comments to the press. Instead, he walked through the terminal with a distant expression, avoiding every lens and question. It was clear something had changed, but nobody knew what. The truth began to unravel when a private video surfaced online, recorded by a fan who accidentally caught him outside a quiet cafe late at night. In the clip, Can was sitting alone, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees, staring at the ground as if searching for answers he still couldn't find. When approached gently and asked if he was okay, he lifted his head with a painful half-smile and whispered, "My heart hurts, and I can't hide it anymore." That one sentence exploded across social media. It wasn't a promotional line, it wasn't a scripted moment, it was raw, real, and completely unfiltered. The world wanted to know what had wounded him so deeply, and why after Dubai he seemed like a man carrying a truth too heavy for him to hide. Insiders began hinting that something happened during his time there, something that forced him to confront emotions he thought he had buried long ago. Some whispered it was connected to an unexpected encounter, others claimed he received news that shook his entire emotional balance. A few even suggested he had reached a breaking point after months of internal pressure, exhaustion, and deep personal disappointment. But what truly fueled the public's concern was the way he looked in the days that followed. He was quieter, slower, almost as if every movement required effort. Even his social media presence, normally energetic, polished, full of life, went dark. The last thing he posted before disappearing was a cryptic line, "Some truths hurt differently." Especially when they come too late. Fans immediately connected this message to the Dubai trip, assuming whatever he discovered there was something he had never expected to face. Meanwhile, those close to the entertainment industry insisted that the situation was not professional at all, it was personal. Something had touched his heart, not his career. Reports mentioned he had been seen holding his phone tightly several times, staring at it as if debating whether to call someone or delete an entire chapter of his life. The emotional tension around him became impossible to ignore. Even at public events, he appeared physically present but emotionally distant, offering short answers and avoiding deeper questions. His eyes, once full of intensity and fire, now carried a softness mixed with sadness, as if he no longer had the strength to hide what he was going through. What happened in Dubai? What truth broke him? Why did he confess such a vulnerable sentence to a stranger rather than the world? Nobody knew yet, but one thing had become painfully clear: whatever he confronted during that trip left a mark that he couldn't disguise. And for the first time in years, the world was seeing Can Yaman not as the strong, untouchable star, but as a man whose heart was carrying more than it could bear. In the days following his return from Dubai, the emotional storm surrounding Can Yaman only intensified. Those who saw him up close described a man who seemed torn between silence and an overwhelming urge to finally speak his truth. Something in him had shifted so drastically that even the media, usually relentless and intrusive, approached him with an unusual degree of caution. It was as if everyone sensed that whatever he was carrying was not the kind of burden you question lightly. Rumors began swirling about an unexpected meeting he had during his final night in Dubai. According to a source who worked at the luxury hotel where he stayed, Can had received a message that visibly startled him. The employee claimed that after reading it, he stepped away from the crowded lobby and remained outside for several minutes, staring at the city lights while holding his phone tightly in his hand. When he finally walked back inside, his expression had changed completely, his jaw tense, his eyes full of something unspoken. The moment was brief, but those who witnessed it remembered it vividly because it was the exact moment they realized something had gone terribly wrong. As fans analyzed every possible clue, another detail emerged from someone who claimed to have seen him at the Dubai airport before his flight home. They described him as lost in thought, pacing slowly near the window, whispering something to himself as if rehearsing a conversation he feared but knew was necessary. According to this witness, he had even stepped aside at one point, running his hand through his hair in frustration, as though he were fighting back emotions he refused to show in public. This description matched perfectly with the energy he carried upon arriving in Europe, the exhaustion, the heaviness, the quiet sadness that clung to him like a shadow. But the strongest confirmation came from a friend, someone who claimed to have spoken to a person close to Can. According to this second-hand account, the actor was dealing with a truth he didn't expect to face, something that forced him to reevaluate not just a relationship, but a part of his past he believed was closed forever. The source didn't clarify whether it was related to someone he once cared about, a conversation that reopened old wounds, or a revelation he wished he had heard sooner. But the phrase "truth arrived too late" echoed everywhere, aligning with his cryptic social media post. Some truths hurt differently, especially when they come too late. As speculation reached new levels, fans began piecing together a heartbreaking theory that Can had been keeping certain emotions buried for years, and something in Dubai, someone or some moment, brought all of it rushing back. Whether it was regret, unresolved love, or betrayal remained unknown, but one thing was clear: it struck him deeply enough to break the emotional armor he usually carried so effortlessly. Even his closest friends noticed the difference. Reports claimed he canceled several meetings, postponed appearances, and requested privacy, something he rarely did unless absolutely necessary. One insider mentioned, "He's not angry. He's wounded. And when he's wounded, he disappears to rebuild himself." That insight hit fans hard, because it painted a picture not of a celebrity involved in superficial drama, but of a man trying to process a pain he didn't see coming. And yet, despite everything, he still hadn't spoken publicly. Not because he didn't want to, but because he didn't know where to begin. The world had heard his trembling confession to a stranger: "My heart hurts, and I can't hide it anymore." Now everyone waited to discover the story behind those words. In the days that followed, the emotional weight surrounding Can Yaman's return from Dubai became impossible to ignore, and what had started as a quiet sadness slowly transformed into something the public could no longer pretend not to see. Everywhere he went, there was a subtle tension in the air, a sense that he was carrying a story too heavy to speak, yet too powerful to hide. Those who encountered him, even briefly, described him with the same words: distant, thoughtful, fragile in a way that felt unfamiliar. One particularly telling moment came when a paparazzo captured a photo of him sitting alone in his car outside his home. His head rested against the steering wheel, his fingers gripping it with quiet desperation, as if he were trying to gather the strength to walk inside. The photo, leaked without context, quickly went viral, and fans immediately recognized the expression he wore: not anger, but heartbreak. What happened in Dubai that could leave a man like him this shattered? That question consumed both the media and his supporters. Some believed he had confronted a truth about someone from his past. Others argued he had finally reached an emotional breaking point after months of silent pressure. But the most compelling theory came from an insider who claimed that Dubai forced him to face something he had avoided for years: unfinished emotions. According to this source, Can had run into a person connected to a significant chapter of his life, a chapter he believed was firmly closed. The meeting was not planned, and certainly not welcomed, but it happened nevertheless. The source said, "Sometimes life brings you face to face with the one truth you're not ready for." That's what happened to him. This single suggestion ignited a firestorm of speculation. Did he see someone he once loved? Did he hear something he wasn't prepared to process? Or did he discover that a chapter he thought was over had never truly ended? Meanwhile, those closest to him revealed small but telling details. He had been quieter in group conversations, staring off mid-sentence as if slipping into memories he couldn't escape. He spent long hours walking alone, choosing empty streets over crowded places. And more than once, he was overheard saying things like "I should have known" and "it's too late now," phrases that hinted at regret rather than anger. One friend, speaking anonymously, said, "He's not dealing with a scandal. He's dealing with the truth he didn't want." That statement resonated everywhere. It aligned perfectly with his emotional confession recorded days earlier: "My heart hurts, and I can't hide it anymore." The public began to understand that this wasn't a publicity stunt, nor a career-related setback. It was something deeply personal. Something that affected him on a level far beyond fame or pressure. Even his work habits changed. Scripts that once excited him suddenly remained unopened on his desk. He skipped gym sessions, avoided social gatherings, and spent hours replaying something on his phone, perhaps a message, perhaps a memory. The emotional shift became so pronounced that fans began sending him heartfelt notes online, urging him to stay strong. But the silence persisted. Still, beneath that silence, something else was happening, something subtle yet unmistakable. Can was beginning to confront the truth he had been avoiding. He wasn't ready to speak it yet, but he was preparing himself. Not for the world, for his own healing. And as the mystery surrounding him continued to grow, one thing became painfully clear. Whatever he faced in Dubai was not just a moment. It was a turning point, one powerful enough to break down the walls he had spent years building around his heart. As the emotional tension surrounding Can Yaman continued to deepen, the mystery of what truly happened in Dubai grew heavier by the day. Those closest to him saw the signs long before the public did, but even they couldn't fully understand the sudden shift that took place after that trip. It wasn't just sadness. There was something deeper in his eyes, something that looked like the moment a person realizes a truth they had been running from for far too long. For years, Can had built a reputation for being strong, composed, and determined, someone who faced life's storms with confidence. But now, that confident exterior had cracked, revealing a vulnerability he could no longer mask. People who interacted with him described his silence not as avoidance but as a man trying to hold himself together while dealing with the emotional shock of something unexpected. One eyewitness account from a dinner gathering added a new layer to the unfolding narrative. According to this person, Can spent most of the evening staring into the distance, barely touching his food. When a friend placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and quietly asked, "Are you sure you're all right?" he simply nodded without speaking. But his eyes told a different story. They were heavy, filled with a silent ache that words couldn't hide. He excused himself early and left alone, walking slowly to his car with the weight of someone carrying far more than he could express. Meanwhile, an anonymous insider who had known Can for years revealed a detail that shook everything. He didn't just learn something in Dubai. He felt something. Something he thought he would never feel again. This revelation set fans spiraling into theories. Was it love? Was it closure? Or was it the painful realization that a door he thought could reopen was now permanently locked? Theories grew even stronger when a heartfelt audio clip surfaced, allegedly someone close to Can speaking privately about him. In the clip, the person said, "He's hurting because he saw the truth too late. He thought he had time, but he didn't." That one sentence deepened the emotional gravity of the story. It suggested regret, deep, irreversible regret, connected to someone or something from his past that resurfaced in Dubai at the worst possible moment. As speculation spread, several entertainment pages highlighted an important detail many had missed. Before his trip, Can had started wearing a subtle bracelet he had not worn in years. One fan claimed it was a gift from someone significant in his past. Whether true or not, the symbolism intensified the narrative. Had he worn it because he expected something? Or because he was holding on to something he hadn't fully let go of? Another report suggested that a message sent to him during his final night in Dubai was the catalyst for everything. The message, according to sources, contained words that reopened emotional scars he had spent years trying to heal. Some even claimed he had reread it multiple times on his flight home, unable to escape the memories it triggered. As all these pieces came together, one thing became undeniable. Can was a man caught between the truth he discovered in Dubai and the life he had tried to build afterward. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was the emotional collision of past and present, the moment when a long-buried feeling resurfaces stronger than ever, leaving you unprepared and defenseless. His confession, "My heart hurts, and I can't hide it anymore," now made perfect sense. It wasn't a dramatic line. It was the truth of a man who had finally reached the point where pretending was no longer possible. And as the world watched him struggle to navigate this overwhelming emotional storm, one question began to echo louder than ever: would he finally confront the past that broke him, or would he walk away from it forever? As the days unfolded after his return from Dubai, the emotional storm surrounding Can Yaman reached a point where even those who barely followed celebrity news could sense that something profound had shaken him. What began as subtle signs of sadness had now evolved into a full emotional unraveling, one he no longer tried to disguise. The man who had always carried himself with strength and control now looked like someone standing at the edge of a truth he could neither accept nor escape. The more people observed him, the clearer it became that Dubai had not just confronted him with a painful reality, it had changed him. One final, heartbreaking detail emerged from someone close to his inner circle. According to this person, on his last night in Dubai, Can had received a message he never expected to see again. A few short lines, a few carefully chosen words, but powerful enough to break open a part of his heart he thought he had sealed permanently. The insider said, when he read it, he froze. Not because he was angry, but because everything he buried came back in a single moment. Those words described exactly the man the public had been witnessing ever since. A man carrying memories he tried to forget. A man grieving for something he thought he had moved on from. A man realizing too late that time does not erase the truth, it only hides it until the moment you're forced to face it again. In the days that followed, Can reportedly spent hours alone, avoiding conversations unless absolutely necessary. He walked through the world like someone searching for clarity but finding only deeper emotional confusion. A friend mentioned that he confessed quietly one evening, "I don't know what to do with what I'm feeling." This was not the voice of a celebrity caught in gossip. It was the voice of a man finally admitting the weight of a fracture he kept hidden for too long. Another emotional moment came when a fan encountered him outside a quiet bookstore. The fan asked gently if he was okay, and instead of his usual charismatic smile, he gave a soft, broken expression and said, "Some things hurt more when you realize you can't change them." That line spread like wildfire. It confirmed everything the public had suspected: regret, heartbreak, and a truth that arrived too late. Meanwhile, online communities built timelines, piecing together clues about who or what might be at the center of this emotional collapse. Some believed he had seen someone from his past in Dubai, someone who once held a significant place in his heart. Others were convinced he discovered something he wished he had known sooner. There were rumors of missed chances, of unspoken feelings, of a goodbye that had never truly ended. And yet, through all of this, he remained silent. Not out of secrecy, but because he genuinely didn't know how to speak about something that transformed him so deeply. Those close to him explained it best: he's grieving not a person, but the version of himself he lost. But despite the darkness surrounding him, something else began to appear, slowly, quietly, like a light emerging through a damaged window. Acceptance. Little by little, he started acknowledging the emotions he had long avoided. Not publicly, not dramatically, but privately. He began writing again. He revisited places that held meaning. He even opened conversations with people he had distanced himself from. It was clear that he was rebuilding himself, not from the strength he once had, but from the vulnerability he finally allowed himself to feel. His confession, "My heart hurts, and I can't hide it anymore," was not the end of his story. It was the beginning of him facing the truth he had run from. And as the world watched him navigate this painful transition, one thing became certain: whatever happened in Dubai broke him open, but it also freed him. The man returning from this emotional storm would not be the same as the one who left. He would be more honest, more aware, and perhaps, in time, stronger than he had ever been, because he finally stopped hiding the pain that shaped him.